Hello and welcome to my Magicka Warden PvP build. It is designed to be a fun and fast build that gets in and out of combat while doing tons of damage with a perfectly timed burst combo. Please keep in mind that this is not the most optimal build for Magicka Warden, but I think it's extremely fun to play and something new to try if you're bored with Meta Magnet. Starting off with Race, I suggest Breton as the sustain is really needed on this build. We are running Mortal, and for your Mundus I recommend any Mundus stone that you think you need. I'm using the Mage for more max Magicka, but you can always use the Atronach for extra Magicka regen, as that's quite decent this patch. Bear in mind that you'll want to have at least one spell damage glyph on your Necropotence jewellery if you pick Atronach. For food, we are running the Mistral Banana Bunny Hash. Moving over to armor, we are using 5 light armor, 1 heavy and 1 medium. Unlike my previous builds, you will actually need a light monster piece, as your heavy and medium pieces are your chest and pants respectively. With the body armor, you need 3 pieces of Clever Alchemist. For me, it's the heavy chest, medium pants, and light shoes. When it comes to the light piece of Clever Alchemist, you can use any of these: shoes, sash, gloves, or epaulets. It doesn't really matter, but just as long as you only use one, because the rest will be taken up by Necropotence. This set is essential on Magicka Warden since our Betting Edge automatically procs the bonus Magicka, and it's a huge amount of stats. 2 of our jewellery pieces are made up with Necropotence, and one of the rings is a crucial part of the build. That's the Wild Hunt ring. This ring is what makes us move super fast, especially out of combat. And finally, for our headpiece, we are using 1 piece of Swarm Mother. This specific set is only used for the nice boost it gives to our maximum stats, as it gives us more damage and shield power, but also more ability to block, break free, roll dodge, and sprint. For your weapons, you'll be running a Perfected Master's Inferno Staff on your front bar, as you'll get a massive spell damage spike on your burst combo when you time it right. If you don't have this, you can use a non-perfected version, as that's less difficult to get, but I'd try to get it as soon as possible, as a lot of our damage comes from it. On the back bar, you're using a Clever Alchemist sword and shield, but you can also use the Restoration Staff if you prefer to run any sort of Restoration Staff skill. Running a Restoration Staff gives you higher spell damage since its light attack is near instant, and will proc your Berserker glyph quite easily, but I find you still have less survivability than you do with a sword and shield. With all 5 of the Clever Alchemist pieces, drinking a potion on your back bar will give you a massive spell damage boost, and it can be the difference in killing people or not killing people. Moving on to enchantments, you need to run all tri-stat glyphs on your armor, as our healing requires the use of Arctic Blast or Polar Wind, and we are running blue food. Our Necropotence necklaces have 2 Magicka recovery glyphs, but you can swap the arcane one for spell damage if you think you can sustain fine without it. Your Wild Hunt ring will have spell damage, and your Flame Staff will have frost damage. Your shield will have a Triglyph, and your sword will have a Berserk glyph. Traits for your armor are infused on chest, pants, helmet, and shield, with impenetrable on the rest. Your jewels are all different. Your Wild Hunt ring will stay as swift, and your Necropotence pieces are infused and arcane. Your Flame Staff runs infused for more single target damage, and your sword runs powered. If you need to come back to this video, I'll hover over each piece of my gear so that you don't have to dig around to find it. This timestamp will be in the description. Next, we move to the skills. Crushing Shock is our spammable for this build. This is an extremely powerful ranged spammable that can proc various status effects, is relatively fast, and can interrupt enemies. If your ping isn't awful, then you can use Elemental Weapon. Flame Clench is our single target stun that procs our Perfected Inferno Staff. It's essential to run this as our stun. Inner Light is just a passive slot skill to boost our max Magicka. It also gives us Major Prophecy, which helps us with bonus critical chance. We don't need to cast this skill unless we know there's a cloaked Nightblade nearby. Deep Fissure is a huge burst damage skill and an essential component in our burst combo. It applies Major Breach. Bird of Prey is used for minor berserk while slotted and to run around faster. It can really help us a lot when trying to run in and out of situations. For my main damage ultimate, I'm running Dawnbreaker of Smiting. This ultimate is, in my opinion, super underrated for Magda. Stamdens can use it to great effect with Subterranean Assault, and while we can't use it to the same level as Stamdens, it's not far off and still extremely potent. On our back bar now, the first skill we're using is Leeching Vines. Leeching Vines is one of the heals we're using for our build. It's extremely helpful in groups, and you simply don't have to spam cast it for little benefit, as now Living Trellis feels extremely underpowered due to the healing nerfs in Greymoor. I think it's just better to make use of the minor lifesteal provided by Leeching. Polar Wind is our main burst heal, and it's too essential not to use. In groups this heal is really handy, especially for duos. While it doesn't stun enemies, it does rank up in healing done and heals an ally who is relatively close to you. I like this more over Arctic Blast because while the stun in Arctic Blast is great for getting people off of you, I like the group utility of Polar and the ability to control who I want to stun and when. This isn't to say that you shouldn't use Arctic Blast though, as it ranks up in cost reduction and provides a stun should you want it. It's really up to you. This is a flex spot that I go back and forth on, Dampen Magic or Race Against Time. Race Against Time gives you an easy source of Major Expedition on your back bar, and increases your crit damage as well as giving you a small damage shield while blocking. And most importantly, snare and immobilization immunity for 2 seconds, which can be the difference between life and death. Additionally, Dampen Magic can save your life, as it can provide a decent shield that scales with max Magicka. I feel as if more experienced players might tend towards Race Against Time, and in that case, they can move around their CP allocation and drop their Mage Munders for something like the Apprentice. Ice Fortress is an essential Warden skill to run in PvP. It's your armor buff, and it also provides minor protection to you as well. You need to have this up at all times. Blue Betty is used for the Magicka return and major sorcery. It procs Necropotence and also purges negative effects every 5 seconds. It can be recast for free to heal a small amount and remove one negative effect. Our back bar ultimate is also a flex spot. You can use whatever you like here. In solo situations, I would prefer to run Spell Wall, Life Giver, or Precognition. Spell Wall because it's a huge amount of mitigation and projectiles can't touch you for a couple of seconds. Life Giver if you're running a Restoration Staff. It'll essentially bring you back up to full health, give you a damage shield and some resistances. Specifically, you want to have these specific skills morphed because they will proc as soon as you use the ultimate. And finally, Precognition purely for the Duke potential, as it resets your position back to where it was 4 seconds ago. The faster you move, the more distance you can get out of it. And when you train yourself to use it, you can bait out ultimate abilities on the back bar while stunned, and warp out straight after without needing to break free. I think Warden is one of the only classes that can really use the Precognition morph of Undo, as we already have minor protection built in. But lastly, when it comes to group play, I don't really think you should use anything other than Northern Storm. You get a bunch more damage for 30 seconds and major protection for you and your group, a decent area of effect damage over time, and a 30% snare on enemies for 8 seconds. It's pretty good. For CP, it's pretty subjective, but this is what I use. Also, please keep in mind that Bastion will change if you don't use your shield. I won't be including any gameplay in this build video, as I will have another video showcasing this build in action later. But I will have a card on screen right now which will take you to my test montage, including a prototype version of this build that plays extremely similarly. Thanks for watching the video. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below, or join the ESO Frost Discord to ask me directly. It has a link in the description.